Frank, you mentioned the guys had kind of a front-loaded exam schedule. So how many days have you had them back in the gym, and what's been the main thing you've been working on?
Tuesday, we did some stuff with them. Very low stress, a lot of teaching, more offensive stuff than anything. Our defense is not what it needs to be, but our offense really slipped, and that's usually the way it works when you got so many new guys, because you don't get the repetition you need for spacing and for reads and the cuts and the different things that require practice time. Because when you start playing games, everybody plays differently. Everyone has different ideas on how to defend. When you got a lot of new guys, they're not used to all the different things. So you can't, everyone, we all sit around and say, oh, what a great halftime adjustment. When you got old guys, you can make adjustments in timeouts and halftime. When you got young guys, it's deer in headlights in a lot of things. And all it takes is having quick turns and two different teams that defend the same action in a different way. And now you don't have the maturity from a knowledge, experience standpoint. So, but we've been doing a lot of offensive stuff. We went Tuesday. We went yesterday. We'll ratchet up today a little bit, and then tomorrow it's full go.
Questions, guys? I'll be back.
Kind of a general question. I think last year on the run there in the postseason, you talked about how the exposure that you wanted to bring not only to this university but this state as a whole, and how basketball is kind of needs to be a little bit more on the mark, under the spotlight in this state with high school coaches, AAU programs. With Clemson kind of leading into that that game, how have you evaluate kind of this state and the state and how it's gotten better since you've been here and you've arrived?
Yeah, it's like Brad and I speak about this. We laugh about this in private, like so-called basketball rivalry, yet no one writes about it, no one talks about it until the day of the game. It's like, does anyone ever give Clemson credit because they play South Carolina? Does anyone ever give South Carolina credit because they play Clemson? Like, when people speak about our non-conference schedule, no one ever says they got to go to an ACC school. No, they don't even acknowledge the fact that we play at Clemson this year when talking about our non-conference schedule. And I know Brad feels the same way about he never gets any credit because he plays South Carolina every single year. That's a shame because he runs a real good basketball program. Brad is one heck of a basketball coach. They've been a good basketball team every single year that I've been in this league. And it's unfortunate. I don't have that answer for you, but it's not. I'm around here for Clemson, South Carolina football and baseball. I know the way that's reported. Our basketball games aren't reported that way. We don't get credit for playing Clemson in basketball the way our baseball team gets for playing Clemson in baseball, or our football team for playing Clemson in football, and vice versa. Brad and I are friends. We talk. We laugh because neither one of us get credit for playing that game. We do. He respects us. I respect him. But I don't know. I don't have that answer for you.
More so on a high school level. How do you see?
Oh, yeah.
You talk about kind of the coaches in the state and stuff like that. What's been your evaluation, just the state as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. Brad and I both have a responsibility to building our programs and trying to find success because all that trickles down. It creates more interest in the eyes of the young kids. High school coaches never get especially in this state, don't get the credit they deserve for the brand of basketball they coach. And it's a big responsibility. The better Clemson does in basketball, the better we do in basketball. Not for 1 year, or not for an NCAA tournament run, but in the long run. the more we can help grow basketball at the grassroots level in our state. And that's, anytime you grow basketball, you got more kids playing, you got more coaches coaching, it builds it. And that's what you're looking to do.
Hey, Frank, you've taken kind of obviously the brave approach going back and forth with fans on Twitter, and kind of don't see many coaches do that right now. What's your ultimate goal in kind of doing that? And is it more just to get the fans in the seats, or what's the ultimate goal in going back and forth with some of those fans?
I think I've gone back and forth. I've got getting close to 90,000 followers. I don't know how many times I've tweeted since I started my account. I think I've gone back and forth with 3 people. If that's going back and forth with fans, and you know, the only one, here's my thing on social media. You want to say I don't know what I'm doing, I don't care. I'm cool with it. I don't know who you are. You have the right to express whatever you want to say. Ray Tanner tells me, Frank, you don't know what you're doing? I'm going to listen. My wife tells me, Frank, why are you doing this like this? I'm going to listen. You know, just simple. People, I don't know who they are. They criticize me all they want. It's irrelevant to me. I don't do it to have social media following. I can care less about all that. But I had a fan say that our players are mediocre. Please. You think I'm going to accept somebody saying our players are mediocre? You tell me to my face, I'm going to react. You tell me on social media, I'm going to react. And I think I responded in a professional manner. I didn't insult anybody. I had another guy call me a 100% rear end. I don't have do you read my tweets? Have I ever insulted anybody on Twitter? Have I ever attacked anyone on social media? Don't do it to me. Why? Because if I made 20 grand, would you care what I replied to people on social media? Probably not. If I make what I make now, why is that different? Salaries don't make people. We are who we are as human beings, plain and simple. I'm not going to allow some person just attack me personally. It is what it is. And if you read what I explained, I think it was a pretty good response, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was quite that bad. And then there was a third one. I don't remember. I think it was a Gator fan that said we play a boring brand of basketball. I didn't insult that person. I just said, I think you got a short memory. If that's going at people, I don't go on social media to argue. I don't argue in real life. Arguing doesn't get anywhere. People argue when neither one listens to the other. That's when they argue. You know, people want to say, I don't know what I'm doing. If I don't know you, I'm not paying attention. I can care less. I've been in this business 35 years now. Those people I don't know that think I don't know what I'm doing, I'm glad they weren't the ones that hired me, because obviously they wouldn't have given me a job. I'm not trying to stir the pot and get fans in the. When I sit here and I tell you guys, I need our fans to help us. It is not right for our guys to play as hard as they try to play, for us to build the program that we built together with the fans for the last 5 years to play in an empty gym. I need our fans to help us. I didn't say our fans stink. I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but I'm not one of those social media guys that kind of. And by the way, so if you follow me on social media, I'll say funny stuff with people that are personal friends. I'll put my thoughts on there, and every X number of months, I might check somebody that I think's being disrespectful. Okay? The only times that I start reading what I don't want to say common fans, that's not a fair word, what people who I don't know write is when I'm in a real good mood because I want to laugh. Because I think it's all a joke. I think 80% of social media is a joke. So when I want to laugh at stupid stuff, I read what people that don't know me put on there. So for me to read that ignorant stuff, I have to be in a good mood. Because I'm in a bad mood, I'm like you and every other human being. I might say something that then I'd be going at somebody. So I don't know. I think social media was great when it started because you can connect with people, was a great means of gathering information. And what it's become an irrelevant conundrum of ignorance to divide people that have no reason to be divided. You know what that word means, Phil? Because we're in this kindergarten table right here now. I don't even know if that word fit. It just sounded good.
Coach, from a matchup standpoint, South Carolina athletes always say beating Clemson is something they want to do no matter, what the sport is, what the ranking, whatever it is. So what are the challenges of playing Clemson at Clemson compared to hosting them, and how has their team changed from a year ago?
Fourth-year junior point guard, fourth-year junior two guard, 3-year high-minute-a-game guy all 3 years at the 3, 4-year starter at the 4, fourth-year junior at the center. That's the problem. That's their starting 5. The amount of experience those kids have is ridiculous. They have 3 guards in Sheldon Mitchell, Reed, and Gabe DeVoe that all shoot it, pass it, and they understand what Brad wants from them. Kind of what I had last year in Sindarius, Dwayne, Justin, and PJ. They knew what I wanted, so they have that right now. Dante Grantham, who's predominantly playing at the power forward spot this year, can really, really shoot the basketball. And then Elijah Thomas is a load. I've seen him play since he was in high school. They've done a great job with him as far as getting him in shape and changing his body. He's just got real good hands, and he's an absolute load inside. Then they come off the bench with a young man that we played against last year who was at Michigan, Mark Donald. He's a 5th-year senior. That's unbelievable amount of experience. It's just, their experience factor is real good. And like I told you earlier, Brad does a heck of a job. Brad coaches his rear end off. Brad's teams don't lose. You might beat them, but they're not losing. And that's the challenge. Luckily we've been on the road for a couple games. So hopefully being on the road isn't that big of a to us. The fact is that we're probably going on the road and it's Wofford times 3. That's probably what's going to be like. How are we going to handle that moment? Excuse me. We got our hands full, but that's all right. Because you know what happens like 2 weeks from now? There's 18 Clemsons coming at us one after the other. So we better be prepared to deal with this one.
Dave and then Colin.
Franco, you mentioned about the Carolina-Clemson rivalry with the difficulty in scheduling and trying to get the exempt tournaments and all. How tough is it to try to get a matchup with Clemson when the kids are in school, when there can be a huge crowd, because you're also having to deal with football season?
It's funny. I don't know if somebody wrote about it or someone spoke about it. I want to say Kerry Rich was on the radio, and I was driving home last week sometime, and I was listening to Kerry, and some fan called talking about that. In my years here, do you realize that when we've played Clemson, when we play them now, our crowd has been bigger than when we played them when school was in? Yeah, I do. Brad and I have talked about it. Brad feels the same way. We play that game earlier. What's every article your boss telling you to write in November going to be about? Huh? So why do I want to play when you're writing about football? You understand what I'm saying? And facts are facts. We played Clemson here, when was it? Last year? And we had more fans than we did 2 years before. It's just, I don't know. See, you're putting me in a spot where I'm going to criticize fans that I don't want to do. You understand what I'm saying? I got numbers where I can be critical publicly. That doesn't help me and my team, my program. It doesn't help me with fans. But I can give you facts. We've got more fans playing now at our games this date than we did when we played it earlier.
Colin?
Frank, I think on your radio show last week, you mentioned the idea you're thinking about a bigger lineup. What do Mike and Chris and maybe Felipe have to do to kind of make that come into a reality? What do they have to work on to make you think about that a little bit more?
Say that first part. I coughed and I missed the first part of your question. Oh, yeah. Well, they got to play better for me to be willing to expand our team in different ways. You don't help people by giving them more responsibility unless they're able to handle the responsibility you've already given them. We're still trying to handle that responsibility. When I feel that we can get to a place where the things that we have put in place we're comfortable with, then I can grow it. I can't teach chapter 5 until we understand 1 through 4. I'm trying to take it. That's how I think as a teacher. Okay, I don't think like a rocket scientist. I think like a teacher. And as we have Phil here sitting in his kindergarten class, I can't teach him college algebra until he understands basic math. Correct. That's why he always asks me about the 13 scholarships. I'm trying to get him to get past number 13, but it's I can't help myself, Phil. My bad. Right now, we're not clear on chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4, so I can't go to chapter 5. My vision is for that to be able to be part of our team before the season's over. Can we get there or not? Maybe, maybe not. You know, it's there's a lot of things right now that I can't get to because we're still trying to figure out the A's and B's. And I don't mean I'm not trying to put our guys down. Just got too many new faces, you know, and you know, and it gets back to what we were talking about before with adjustments, whether it's in a timeout or at halftime. You know, it's not as easy when you don't have the amount of experience that you'd like. Now, if we keep these guys together a year from now, be a lot easier to do, I would hope.
The shooting, I think going into the season, we thought you're going to be a good shooting basketball team. Hasn't been there from the field or the line so far. Is that something that has caught you a little bit by surprise? And do you expect a turnaround in that phase of the game?
We're averaging more points per game this year or last year? I'm asking you.
Oh, you're asking me.
Yeah. Because if you say we're not shooting it well, then obviously we must not be scoring very well. You know, are we shooting it as well as I'd like us to or as well as I think we can? No. And part of that is that we've had so many games and so little practice that offense breaks down because structure, everything's new to everybody. People guard you different ways. We're averaging about the same exact number that we did last year. So scoring is not a problem. It's turnovers, that's a problem. Our turnovers this year have been bad turnovers. They're not downhill turnovers. They are passive turnovers. That's a problem. We'll shoot it better as the season continues to go. Free throws, I have no idea. You know, Phil, everyone thinks free throws is this like magic science that, you know, you just kind of, everybody, I go to the line, I can make 9 out of 10. Yeah, good luck. Good luck playing in a game and guarding and playing as hard as you got to play and getting your head pounded against a guy trying to rebound the ball, and all of a sudden you got to stop and shoot 2 free throws. Good luck with making 9 out of 10 there. So why do I say that? Either you can make shots or you can't. And if you can make shots, then it becomes a mental thing. Are you mentally prepared because you missed a shot that you should make, but they fouled you to get to the line and make a free throw? You went after a rebound and some guy clubbed you upside the head, so they called him for over the back. Do you have the mental discipline to disengage from that moment and focus in on making the next free throw? That's a little different than the guy that stands at the YMCA and says, hey, watch this, I can make 9 out of 10. It's a little different. I think our guys, as they're trying to figure basketball out the way we want to play it, and if you've heard what I've said, I think our focus has kind of meandered a little bit. I think we're starting to regain that focus. As we regain focus, I think we'll be a better free throw shooting team. As far as field goal percentage, I don't know what it is. I know we've had a couple of bad shooting games, Temple, Illinois State, just bad shooting games. But we're like right around the same number that we were at last year. It's very, very similar.
Josh.
With Justin Minaya, his background is obviously well documented. Is he someone who came in ahead of the curve with his professionalism and his work ethic? And can you tell he's a guy who's been around professional athletes and professional sports?
I've never just sat down and asked him that. I've never even spoken to his family about that. I've made the assumption that that's where he's learned from being around professional athletes, from being around a person that was responsible on putting a successful team together, seeing the DNA of winning teams, seeing the DNA of losing teams. When you got access to be around, you learn a lot why some teams succeed and some teams don't. When I've got opinions on teams I root for, and I sit in the stands and I watch, or I sit on my couch and I watch, and I create opinions like everyone else, like, oh, that team should be better than they play. Well, there's reasons why that takes place. And there's some teams that I look at and I'm like, they're not as good as they look. And yet they never lose. There's reasons for that. I think when you have access to being around that every day, you see why. And he's had access to that. To his credit, he's paid attention because he's in tune. He hasn't played real well last 2 or 3 games. I know he lifted up and made the first 3 threes against whoever we just played here the other day, Coastal. But then he didn't play real well after making 3 threes. That's okay, man. He's, it's, when I sit here and tell you that our guys didn't play well, I'm not trying to tell you that I can't stand them. And it's just they didn't play well. I wish I could tell you differently. The challenge is to get them to play better. That's my job, is to help them. Their job is to learn from what they do right and do wrong so they can be more consistent. Justin understands that. And that's his demeanor. That's where it's fun to be around. His willingness to accept responsibility, not deflect responsibility. When you blame, you're not trying to accuse others. You're trying to deflect responsibility. It's not on me. It's on him. He doesn't do that. He accepts responsibility. So he's obviously paid attention, and being exposed to it has helped him.
Talk about you and Brad's responsibility with being the 2 coaches, basketball coaches in the state, to grow it, organically and things like that. Have you seen that progress though in your time here? Obviously, you were kind of new to this area when you got here. Mm-hmm. How have you seen that rise over the years, and maybe did the Final Four run help that at all?
I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer there. I spent a lot of time with high school coaches in the state. I know Brad tries to do the same. We support all the AAU teams in the summer. We show up to their games, and Brad's there and I'm there. We try to recruit the kids in this state. But I don't know. I really don't know how it's progressed. I think you'd have to ask some of the high school travel ball coaches and see if they think our efforts in building our programs and trying to do our part in giving back to basketball at the grassroots level, if that has impacted their programs a little better. I don't have an answer there.
Frank, a couple of questions. First of all, how is David with that elbow?
We're going to put him on the top ring rope, and we're going to ask him to give the old Randy Savage elbow drop. And if he stands up and he's okay, then we won't clear him.
And second,
Serious note, he should be fine. Yeah, he should be fine.
with that, how have you seen him? He was the highest rated recruit, and I know you don't like star ratings and all, but how have you seen him succeed so far, and where does he need to get better going down the stretch?
Defensively is where he needs to improve. He just he's never been asked to defend on a consistent basis, and number two, he's never been asked to defend the way we try to defend. So he's trying. I'll give it to him. He's not pouting. He's not complaining. He gets frustrated. That's part of it, but he's trying. David, I don't have issues on my team. Every team's got stuff that you deal with. His improvement is not something that I'm concerned about because his mindset is the right way. Offensively, like most young kids that have success in high school, he tends to hold the ball too much. That's why I always put stats in front of players. I don't do a lot of 27% to the left, 18% to the right. How about that, left and right? I got that one good. I don't really spend a lot of time on that, but there's certain stats that I think are impactful. And in the last 5 years, the two teams that have won the most games in the NBA are Golden State and San Antonio. No, LeBron was with Miami before, San Antonio. Those are the two teams that lead the league in passing every year. So I show them that stuff. And so they understand. It's even the elite players, the guys that got everyone that can score one-on-one. The best teams are the ones that pass the ball the most. So I say this all the time when I speak to coaches. No coach has ever called a timeout to tell their players to dribble more. We'll call timeouts to tell our players to pass more. So, it's got to pass. And he's not an unwilling passer. He just has to learn how to trust passing.
You already answered David, but I was going to ask you about Ibby and Jason, just what kind of progress you've seen from them. They obviously haven't played much, but behind the scenes in practice, what kind of improvements have they made since they've gotten on campus?
Yeah, I think both of them are going to be real good players. Jason getting himself in shape where he can keep up with a practice has been what he's fighting to learn. Jason's real close to starting to get some consistent minutes. I really like where he's gone from to where he's at right now. He's put himself in a favorable spot. Like all young kids, him and Ibby both struggle with, all right, when we're running this, I need to get to that spot. It's like game's going on, and it's like, okay, let me get there. And by the time they get there, it's too late. So it kind of messes things up. Ibby probably had the best practice he's had since he's been here yesterday with his athleticism. It's understanding how to play with four other guys, understanding how to play. We all have it's every player has a pocket in the game of basketball. You have to know how to make your decisions within your pocket. I can't make decisions in your pocket. I got to make decisions in my pocket. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying? And you put those 5 pockets together, and that's what creates the spacing. If I got to go into your pocket to make decisions that I got to make, I'm messing you up. That doesn't work. Ibby's trying to figure that out, how to play in his pocket. It's not – basketball's not the freelance sport that everyone thinks it is, where it's just like, hey, just catch the ball wherever and be you, bro. Go do it. It's not really like that. And Ibby's trying to figure that out. But their demeanor is phenomenal, And we coach our guys. We don't just pat them on the back and when they mess up, tell them it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. We coach them. We show them film. We challenge them to grow. We challenge them to learn. When they need to be hugged, we hug them. When they need to be helped up, we help them up because we're not going to let them fail. They're both I'm excited about those two guys. I wouldn't be surprised as the season continues to unfold that those two guys end up getting consistent minutes and helping us win games.
Guys, we're getting a little close on time, so I need to be more. Will, John.
You're a fair guy. You would probably say, if you were looking at it, it'd be like kind of an EKG up and down the way your team has played to start. Where has the progress come? Where would you like to see it come more?
Across the board. You know, we have segments. I was watching film with 3 or 4 of the guys this morning, and we have segments where we play real well. And then we have segments where we don't handle things real well. For example, I'm going to use one game in particular because it's the one example I used this morning, but this, you can pretty much argue it's happened in every game. Against Florida International, we're up 20-4. They go on a 27-3 run. You can't overcome that in an SEC game. You just can't. You know, basketball's a game of runs. You're going to go on, it's like Macho Man fighting Hulk Hogan back in the day. You're going to have your time, and then I'm going to have my time, and you're going to have your time, and I'm going to have my time. Who can sustain their runs and then stop the other team's runs a little shorter? That's usually who wins the games. And that's how you manage those segments of the game is what's going to create the difference. And we'll go in situations where we go on a 19-4 run, which is phenomenal. But then we'll give up a 16-2 run. That's a problem. Does that make sense? You know, so we have to be more consistent with how we manage those moments. Turnovers, we have bad turnovers. Our turnovers are like very bad. And part of that is so many new guys. When you're new, you're not as aggressive. So we're not as aggressive in our decision making. So there's hesitation. And to our guys' defense, go look at the rosters of all the teams we played. Okay? I understand everyone thinks we played a bad schedule. That's all right. You got your opinions, I got mine. I'm not going to argue. I do this for a living. Everyone's got juniors and seniors on every team we've played against. Everybody. So they have a peace of mind on how they play. We're still trying to figure out how we play. We're 8-2 after all that. 6 of our first 7 on the road. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'll say this, if we can go 8-2 after every 10 games, I'm okay with that. I'll be all right. We can go 8-2 over our next 10 and 8-2 over the 10 after that. I'll be okay with that. I won't be happy the days after those 2, but in totality, I think I'll be okay.
When it comes to offering scholarships, you usually wait to build a relationship with some guys a little bit. What was it about Felipe and getting to know him that made you think that he was the right fit for the program? And also, have you had the opportunity to meet with his family in home? I don't know if you're able to do that in the recruiting process, but what kind of interaction have you had with them?
Yeah, it's been a phone conversation with his mom back when we were recruiting him. I eventually, like there's one place I said I would go to, and I never made it there, which was Lithuania, to go meet the parents, but they ended up coming here. They told me, Minda and Lemo both said, they don't speak English, so you going all the way over there would be awesome. They're not going to have a clue of what you say. Wait till they come here, and you'll be okay. So I just waited for them to come here. Eventually, I like to get in front of the parents, and especially with these foreign guys who trust their children in you. With Felipe, it was pretty simple. When he moved to Miami, I got a phone call from one of my guys, and he said, Frank, you need to come see this kid just transferred to our school. I went. I liked him. I didn't jump out of my shoes about him, but I liked him. His high school coach used to coach in the pro league in Puerto Rico. Very, very respected basketball coach. As that month continued to take place, he's telling me, like, Frank, this kid works his tail off, and he has a great feel how to play. Perry Clark now starts going in to watch him play. And Perry's calling me every time he watches him saying, Frank, he's real good. He's got to get in better shape, but he is real good. Then I went back in there, and I liked the workout I saw was better than the one I had seen 3 weeks earlier. By then, we had all built a relationship, and he came on his visit. And while he was on his visit, we sat in my locker room. See, I don't offer scholarships through scouting services or third parties or all that. When they came on the visit, they sat in my locker room, and face to face, I said, I'm all in with you. And, by then we already had an understanding about each other. By then we had communicated enough where we knew where we each stood at. When he left here on his visit, about a week later, he called. He said, I'm in. And that's how that went down. That's how I like to recruit. We keep offering people through third parties, and then we wonder why there's 900 transfers, because we don't recruit people that fit, and not just them fit us, we fit them. And, once again, social media, popularity contest. I'm blessed and honored to receive a scholarship offer. Does that really mean something? Or is it just popularity? That's fine. Some schools choose to recruit that way. More power to them. We miss in recruiting. It's not never a perfect science. We miss in recruiting. We missed at Kansas State. We missed at Cincinnati. Missed at Northeastern. I've missed here. But it is what it is. I'm a people kind of person. I like you and I are talking right now. I like this. I don't need other people speaking on my behalf.
At least to this point, statistically, this has been maybe the best defensive rebounding team you've had here. Is that something you see? Is that something that translates? And if so, is that personnel, is that approach, or is it something else?
No, it's funny you say that, because as I'm watching film, it drives me nuts. Why? Because we got a lot of guys that don't ever leave the paint defensively. They just stand in there. So when people miss shots, they're already there. Hey, they better come up with it. It's that's good and bad. It's good. It's good that we got guys that are actually rebounding the ball defensively. But when you watch us on film, because of our defensive rules and responsibilities, guys just hanging out in the paint is not very good defense in our system. So when we've gotten in trouble is because guys are breaking down in our defensive concepts. We're just talking about Felipe. If you pay attention to my interaction with him, Chris Silva, definitely Kadeem and Jason Cudd, when they're in games, one of the things I'm consistently telling those guys, we don't play one-man zones in this gym. Get out and guard. And they do. Most big kids that don't play in a trapping, full court, or man-to-man system that we try to teach, they're taught, stay in the paint. Don't leave the paint. Stay in the paint. So my point, if you're already in the paint, you better make sure you grab that rebound. And that's where in the past maybe we haven't been as great a defensive rebounding team, is because we do get out of the paint defensively. And that's okay with me, as long as the other team's not getting a high percentage of their misses. I'm more consumed with that. But it's funny you asked that, because, once again, numbers. You look at that number and you're saying, wow, they're a real good defensive rebounding team. And correct. And when I'm breaking our team down, our inability to guard certain actions because guys aren't where they need to be because they're all standing in the paint is breaking us down defensively. So a little give and take there. So it's good that we're getting the ball, but we have to be cleaner in our coverages outside the paint.